and welcome back to the LEC Summer Split. Just before we get into our next game, I'd like to let you know that we've partnered with Prideletics to represent pride in esports and take a stand against homophobia in the global gaming community. With the proceeds donated to LGBTQ causes, you can find the shirt over at Prideletics website. And I'm reading from there, obviously, prideletics.com/esports. This is the t-shirt. Please go check it out. We're about to jump into game. Welcome Ender and Froskurinn to the desk. That was Swazzy. Let's talk a little bit about G2 versus OG. I got very wrapped up in the excitement of the previous game. Going to be dialing into this one where there is a lot of stakes on the table for Origen, who seem to be in a pretty big slump.
Yeah, I mean, this week is absolutely critical for Origen because this is their hardest week they will play up until playoffs. They have to play G2 today and then Fnatic tomorrow, which is absolutely difficult for this squad who has been struggling. And this is sort of the week that will tell me if this team can be a title contender.
And a counterpoint to that, though, if Origen look at this from the mentality of, you know, maybe this is a 1-1 type of week, you're against G2, I don't think anyone really expects to find the win here. Yeah, they're a great measuring stick, but I think that there is still time left down the road for Origen to get it together. I'm curious about 9-14. There's so many champions that Origen relied on, the likes of the Lux, the Tom Kench, that have been taken away or dramatically changed for 9-14. What do Origen reach for now on this brand new patch?
Well, let's find out because we're into the draft, ladies and gentlemen. And everybody else. G2 taking on OG. Aatrox, Sejuani, Kiana taken off the table.
Yeah, the Sejuani, an interesting one here for me because yes, Kold has loved that in previous weeks, but the last few weeks hasn't necessarily been going for that champion, has been much more a fan of the likes of the Jarvan as he's trying to have more of an early game impact in his games.
And there's exactly what you were talking about, the fact that G2 will not let him get the Jarvan. Sylas is kind of the big standout to me, but things like Karma, Sylas, one of them is going to get through this draft phase.
Now the question I have for you, G2 Esports are one of the most innovative teams on the planet, and we've just had a very large change theoretically in 9-14. Can we expect any shenanigans?
I mean, you always have to expect shenanigans with G2 in the game. Specifically, I would love to see something like the Poppy come out here from either side because you look at G2, it's a team that loves to play very highly mobile champions, especially in those two solo lanes. So that's the pick that I had my eyes on most coming into the week.
And a lot of teams right here would grab something like the Karma or the Azir, very safe blind picks, but because it's G2, I'm kind of holding my breath on what the priority is going to be.
I'm very excited to see how well G2 adapt and also what Origen can do. The last time Origen came back from Rift Rivals, they did not adapt well. Yasuo has been nearly perma-banned against this team, and while it is a flex, we kind of think it's going to go to Perkz.
Yeah, we expect it to be bot lane, you know, pair that up alongside the Gragas, but obviously they do have a lot of options here. You know, some of our other teams in the LEC could very likely flex it too, but very few, if any, would be willing to first pick it like G2.
So what's the reaction? Do you think that Origen, like, look towards to grab the Gragas, flex it between support and jungle, and deny that pick that works so well with Yasuo?
I mean, I would personally like to see the Gragas here, especially with a lot of the jungle bans that we've seen already. Just give it, as you mentioned, that disengage, engage potential, and denial ability here. But Kold, I think, might prefer to have an early game jungler that can compete more with the likes of Jankos.
As far as the Azir pick being locked in, again, we talked about the power of the blind pick. I like the fact that it is now being paired with a potential Olaf. There we go. We saw it in Splice last game, how strong this 2v2 is for early jungle priority, and then that allows Kold to go on the offensive across from Jankos.
Well, what is the answer now from G2 Esports? This Yasuo, we need to see time. If the Gragas gets locked in, we feel very confident. That's going to be the Giro down in the bottom. And there's the hover. Where did they go next? A couple seconds more. And Corki is locked in. I guess that's a fairly safe sort of mid laner.
Yeah, good answer into the Azir. Typically, we see the Corki fall a little bit behind in the laning phase, but Caps on that champion is definitely going to appreciate the outscale potential.
Yeah, everything's kind of going according to plan right now.
Well, if there was any teams that we're going to play today that I would have said would not play Corki Azir, it would have been these two teams that I would have guessed, and I would have been horribly wrong. But Rakan will be locked in here for Mithy. Slightly different flavor profile for him. He has played it twice this split, 1-1, lost one.
I mean, it could be a Corki top. I don't think it is, but it could be. It's G2.
What would need to happen? What would need to happen for that to be true? Like, would it be specific matchups or something?
I mean, technically, you have 3 flex picks that came out of G2, and we kind of called them the trendsetters for 9-14. I hear that G2 pay a lot of attention to what happens over in China in the LPL. Corki top's a big pick over there. And Alphari does love ranged matchups.
Okay, let's do it. I want to see that happen.
I don't think it's going to be,
I would
but it is a
love for it-
potential. I was trying to get you excited.
I would love for it to happen. Give Wunder the Corki and let Caps play something ridiculous. We're entering phase 2. Lee Sin has been denied, so getting a preferential matchup here for Kold's Olaf. Zaya, the response, and Karth is taken off the table as well.
Yeah, interesting they went for the Karth this year. I was thinking maybe remove another early game option like the Elise could be a good choice here for the side of Origen, but now makes me think that Jankos will likely try to pick up something like that for himself, assuming the Gragas isn't his pick of choice.
Yeah, he's had a very narrow jungle pool to pick from because Sejuani and Jarvan also banned in first side. I like the Lucian ban because it feels like Patrik was looking for something with a bit more teeth or firepower into that bot lane as well as added safety. This might force him onto an Ezreal, possibly a Sivir.
Even the Kai'Sa, we've seen actually played a lot during today's game, specifically as an answer to that Kai'Sa, but he does have some good options here for sure. That will then leave them counterpick for top lane, so Wunder will have to go ahead and blind.
Do you have a preference on Ezreal over Kai'Sa? There's some scaling here already with the Azir, and it looks like the Ezreal's been locked in.
Yeah, I mean, the reason why you prefer Kai'Sa is because specifically against the Yasuo Gragas in the bottom lane, that's like one of the few champions that can disengage from that heavy all-in. The Lucian is one that we've heard teams talk about before as a good answer here, so that was banned away, so Ezreal was sort of the only really good option left into it.
Yeah, so just to reiterate, you're talking about Ezreal having the safety there, 'cause you said Kai'Sa, I'm just trying to help you out.
The Ezreal, yes.
Yeah, the Ezreal. I also think what's really nice is that Ezreal has a lot of through damage and range, as you are excited for that one, Trevor.
I love Kled. Kled is one of my favorite champions in the game because his spell names just roll off my tongue so well. And I think the play style of Kled with that charge will also benefit the style that G2 Esports has. Run forward, Gragas, Yasuo, potentially this Elise, and that's a scary combination.
Yeah, that's a very scary 2 versus 2 on the top side of the map as well. Kled is so good at turning around ganks because he does get that remount and gets a whole lot of HP back. Elise is one of the few junglers that can contest Olaf in the early game, especially if you do get the jump on him and land that cocoon at the start of your trade.
It feels like if Elise finds you first, that most matchups and trades will go into her favor. So does Jankos find Kold first? In terms of what Alphari is probably going to grab here, he could go for something.
Oh,
I was
yes.
going to say Kennen, but Jax would be fun.
Yeah, I like the Jax as an option to outscale the Kled in the side lane. Importantly, in this matchup, Jax doesn't really have those big cooldowns that you rely on, especially if you go with the Spear of Shojin. You can get a lot of consecutive Counter-Strike stuns out, but also it means that even if Kled is able to remount against you, you can still whittle him down and you don't lose any big CDs from the earlier trades.
And now there's a potential game state for Origen. You know, if Jax does fully come online and becomes that absolute terror that no one can deal with, it's so hard to engage on the 4 members of Origen if they look to set into a 1-4, because you're trying to then tackle an Azir who can Empress divide you away, Rakan with so much mobility, the shift from Ezreal, and then Olaf just presses R and walks.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty crazy to say that it's hard to engage when you have a Kled and a Yasuo Gragas on your team, but it's definitely true in a match like this.
Well, I'm taking a look at the win-loss for Origen over the last 4 weeks, and they have gone 1-1 every single week. This is a team that when I looked at their spring split, mid-split rankings, they were sitting at 6 wins and 6 losses, and they did manage to ramp up and scale to finals. The reason I bring that all up, this weekend, Origen play G2 today, they play Fnatic tomorrow, and then we need to see how well they can scale up towards playoffs, because I am starting to get a little nervous for our second place spring squads.
I mean, frankly, when was the last time that Origen took a game off of G2? Hasn't it been like 7 straight losses at this rate?
It is indeed 7-0 straight losses. I actually have a prepared graphic for that. Thank you for stealing it from me. Let's jump into game. It's G2 taking on Origen. And welcome back to the final game of day 1. As Froskurinn so rightly pointed out, it is Origen on a 7-game losing streak. Disregard the names at the top of your screen. It is G2 versus OG. And the all-time record between these organizations is 18 wins to 3 losses in favor of G2 Esports.
That's a pretty lopsided head-to-head, if you do ask me here. Now, getting into this game, Origen started off splitting up, bringing the their duo lane up towards the top side of the map, I was actually really hoping they would go for some sort of level 1 play, because with the Olaf level 1, Ezreal Rakan 2, there is the ability to make stuff happen, and specifically Kold in this matchup up against Jankos, I do want to see him trying to split the map in some way and trying to, you know, go for invades like we saw in our last game. It was a very, very strong start that wasn't ultimately executed upon, but I think there's definitely room to do it in a match like this.
But it looks like it is going to be a bot side start for both junglers. Jankos starting on his red, Kold onto his blue, so potential pathing and setup here for a top side gank.
Yeah, what'll ultimately end up happening here is Kold probably goes for a full clear, get that level 4, and then maybe look to protect top side around the same time that Jankos would be in this lane, because as we mentioned, this is a potentially vulnerable lane, especially because Wunder with the bear trap on the rope does provide good gank CC.
So the question I'm then going to have for you is, how do these lanes play out while the junglers are building up for the next few minutes? We've seen Corki Azir a bajillion times, so I don't want to go into it, but the Yasuo Gragas for Perkz and Mithy, it is something that we've heard was banned a lot because of the performance they had in scrims. So Frosk, that in combination with Kled versus Jax, you know, where do you want to start in terms of how these lanes are going to play out?
I mean, the scary thing about Yasuo and Gragas is anytime that you see it, there's always going to be a break point where feels like they have kill pressure on anyone. It feels like with having the Guardian on Rakan and then having very mobile, very safe champions for Patrik and Mithy, they're just trying to absorb a lot of that pressure. Level 4 is kind of the big window for me, but obviously if someone just absolutely mispositions, Yasuo and Gragas can make a lot of damage 2 to 3.
They definitely can. Now, I would like to check in on the top lane very briefly, because what we did see was Alphari taking very forward trades against the Kled at level 1 with the counter-strike, assuming that if he can dismount the Kled and then get access to his leaf, it's a very heavy kill threat in that lane. So Wunder had to back away from the lane and allow Alphari to get this big push.
Oh, while that's going on, Wunder's going to be able to get Skarl back from the bushes just as Alphari leapt forward and looked for the counter-strike. So pressure up in the top lane. Kold and Jankos, they're going to be shadowing this top lane.
And I also like the fact that Nukeduck's taking this big window where he knows that both junglers will be topside to go hyper-aggressive on caps here and really chunk him out underneath this tower.
Yeah, so right now, Kold has a lot of support from his lanes. Yes, Alphari did go back to base, but they had the push. So he's able to sit here inside of the river and clear away this Scuttle Crab. At the same time, Jankos was not able to go ahead and start up his Gromp. And this is going to be especially poor for him, because on his second clear through the jungle, this Gromp will still be level 1, meaning gives significantly reduced experience, especially because Jankos is going to be much higher level than that camp.
And I also want to shout out to Mithy here as he trades some blows with Mikyx. He used this time to wander up and place a ward right underneath Jankos' Raptor camp. They know that Jankos is in this bottom river.
Well, let's take a look what happens as Jankos now finds a flash from Patrik. The cocoon, while it finds a target, the flash was instantaneous, and Nukeduck is going to TP back to mid lane.
That's a bit...
Yikes.
So what is it specifically? Like, is it just the fact they even walked into the river?
Well, you saw Jankos' path on the through the Raptor camp. I'll hold it though.
It will indeed. The bear trap on a rope is going to dissuade Kold from going any further, and Skarl was not able to get proc.
Right, so right now, because Jankos was spotted bot lane, yes, he got the flash, and that's a big win for him. But right now, the wave in top is absolutely miserable for Wunder. There's so many ranged minions that it is going to be pushing back in towards Alphari. So you notice Jankos' early pathing, he goes straight back towards this top lane off the reset to try and help bounce this wave. That means push it all the way into the tower and let it reset. But there is an important ward inside the lane from Alphari that should see Jankos if he comes for this.
Oh, but he went underneath it. He hasn't been spotted.
No, he hasn't, but there's a fight in the bottom lane. Mithy's going to be able to dash away towards Patrik. The cocoon onto Kold has done so much damage. That's a flash forward. The rappel comes down. Alphari's looking for Jankos. Defensive flash away. A little Spiderling gets killed. Nobody dies yet.
Action across the map, however.
Oh, Collapse is going very low. Flash available to him. Nukeduck is get pushed away, and no, Jankos not going to be able to come mid.
Such a bold maneuver from Jankos there, but he's now pathing towards that mid lane. I think he wants to get involved with this. Doesn't have access to flash, so if he looks for the dive, very risky play. Either that or he's trying to find Kold pathing back.
Yeah, and Kold has still not gone back to base just yet. Finally going to get that reset off now. Jankos comes in from the side. Nukeduck will have to flash.
Yeah, Nukeduck's so low on mana as well. Just enough to get over the wall. Blast cone's available to him. Nobody's leaving the bottom lane, and beautiful defensive play across the rift.
Yeah, very well to disengage from that. Again, Jankos looking for a hyper-aggressive play. The fact that he just flashed and went for the dive top lane and then cleanly past, knowing that Kold has been forced out of the jungle to get behind Nukeduck.
Yeah, so Jankos does win that trade there and of course applies a lot of pressure into the mid lane, but Kold should come out of this with a pretty hefty experience advantage because again, Jankos is just clearing his Raptors for the first time. The Gromp camp that we mentioned earlier is still at level 1, so he's going to be a little bit behind in terms of overall experience, especially now because he's also going to be skipping out on that Krug camp, which means that Kold gets to have this very clean path bot to top and get a big clearer.
Oh man, Alphari's doing such a good job. 200 hit points, 100 hit points. Alphari over chases, cannot get the last auto, and Wunder gets first blood.
Disaster, overzealous, overreaches, and Wunder punishes him for him. It was going so well for Alphari.
It was looking so good. It felt like Alphari really sort of understood how to play into Kled. He was getting favorable trades, but Ender just messing up that last auto.
Yeah, I mean, he greeds underneath the tower going for the flash. Of course, Wunder's flash came through first, which meant that there was no way Alphari could actually make that trade work out. All of a sudden, this top lane shifts significantly.
All right, so we're looking at this. This is the pro view from the perspective of Wunder.
But I should be fine. And then fighting on bounces is good for me because I went really hard 1v1 now.
You should check this bridge.
I literally
didn't even say anything.
Listen, I mean, you can't, right, when you're under that pressure. Really nicely done, and just no panic at all.
Yeah, I mean, the worst part is that Alphari actually played it really nicely. He held his counter-strike until Wunder came out of the dismount. That's exactly what you need to be doing in this type of matchup, but as we said, just a little bit too much greed.
Now seeing setup, however, it's a reset from both junglers. You can see that Jankos is going to take his reset right now, whereas Kold has advantage to getting early on to the map. So with this added time where Jankos isn't in position to make a play, what does Kold go for? Happens to be the guard camp.
All right, so Kold is now approaching level 6. Got himself that chilling smite accrued, with the exception of Wunder being up 10 CS for now and that kill. It's pretty much even across the rest of the map. But take a look at this, level 6, instantaneous engage on Mithy, flash forward from Perkz, and he manages to find a beautiful kill, combining absolutely every combo. There was no hesitation on the body slam into ultimate from Perkz.
Also, EXP mismatch there. The fact that Mithy was level 4 when that engage started, which allowed Perkz to get the level 6 since his support wasn't in the lane, and Patrik and Mithy didn't have access to their ultimates.
Okay, Betrap on a rope is doing a lot of work here. Skarl is also going to help Wunder out. He's going to try and use that jousting to get to safety. Skarl comes down, pocket pistol by some distance. Wunder's running for his life, and this should be the kill. Managed to secure. Skarl was milliseconds away from coming in, but Perkz once again gets a kill in the bottom lane.
Yeah, Patrik was still isolated down bot lanes. The teams go tit for tat right there. Wunder almost able to turn it in that 1 versus 2, but ultimately it's still G2 that went out across the map.
And now Nukeduck in trouble.
Ooh, just gets out of range of that cocoon. A little bit more mana this time round. Got his flash available to him. G2 Esports 3 kills to 1. Got themselves a 1,400 gold lead, and Jankos will try to steal the Sentinel.
Yeah, just trying to constantly punish when they get information that Kold is on top side. So not only the bot lane dive where Perkz picks up the kill, but now also stealing away the blue buff.
Yeah, and the next play I expect to see from Jankos after his reset is path through clears jungle and then probably set up for an early Drake because of the control they've generated through this bottom lane. Again, Jankos actually passed all the way around right here, and still the stun came through off that body slam. What you gonna do but die?
Yeah, it's just real challenge. And of course, when there's a giant minion wave for Perkz to just use the sweeping blade to chase through, it sets it up so easily. Perkz has got himself the Kershi Shard, Zeal, Berserker's Greaves, and 70 CS accrued at the 9.5 minutes mark. And this is already looking a little bit scary, as G2 have just got so many tools in their kits to dive forward and make proactive plays.
I think it's very scary for Origen right now across from this Yasuo and Gragas combination. It feels like Perkz is especially going to have the confidence, but any time that Exhaust is up to look for the kills, that's a very far trip from home, Wunder.
It is.
He's okay because he can ult out.
Yeah, he's got himself the Goro build with 3 long swords and a Doran's blade. Maybe he's trying to arm Skarl as well. Ended up using the charge defensively. A little bit of an optimistic cocoon there from Jankos, but Miky's getting very close to level 6, and the final breath from Perkz is available for a potential another engage.
Yeah, so from G2, I believe there was calls down bottom lane saying we can look for an engage relatively soon because Jankos has forsaken his top side camps for a very long time. He spent a ton of time hovering around this bottom side of the map, and now with that pressure, Miky and Perkz have just left bot lane. They're looking for a gank mid.
Okay, let's see if this works out. Mithy and Patrik are making their way up. Are they bold enough? Oh, that's so good! The displacement from the package is all that's needed. Caps is still going to be able to escape. He's got flash if necessary. Perkz gets caught underneath the tower. He manages to stay alive just a few seconds longer. Not until Mithy takes him down. I think maybe with the Ignite. Kold is Ragnaroking away to safety. Here comes Patrik. He takes a barrel roll to the face, and now the mid tower is under siege.
Just an unreal play there from G2, going 2 for 1 in the overall trade, and Alphari not going to fully commit for this roam down towards the mid lane. OG give up.
And where there's smoke, there's fire. It was expertly set up before they went for the dive by the 3 control wards, because they've had absolute control since Perkz and Mikyx have just been flexing on Patrik and Mithy down here. Full control of the bottom side river that allowed them to place those control wards to catch Nukeduck by surprise.
And look at that, using the package to set up for the Yasuo ultimate. Beautiful stuff.
And I think Mikyx also did the flash body slap, so even if the Valk hadn't connected, there was going to be follow-up. Now you know
that cast is so good
burned.
too, right? Like they landed on towards Mikyx. I think he would have liked to pick off Kold there as well, but ultimately still get the flash out of the Origen jungler. So even when it's Perkz going down, giving up the shutdown, it's still a 1-for-1.
This is just yet again consistently beautiful League of Legends from G2 Esports. They're the #1 team in the league right now. They're under no pressure to keep showing all these different things, yet they still are. They're innovating. They've got the Kled, they've got that Yasuo Gragas that we've seen banned so many times. And that's all we come to expect from this team. When they don't do this, then I'm going to start getting worried. But I am starting to get a little nervous for Origen. You know, Alphari's once again going for an engage, but they're 5-5 now. And they're already falling significantly behind G2 Esports.
But Origen are playing with the numbers advantage since Kold's down here. They're trying to then use that numbers advantage to take complete control over this jungle, and you constantly see Nukeduck cheating down because they're either looking for Mikyx and Perkz to overstep, get picked off, or they want control over this mountain dragon where they can secure it. That's a TP top from Azir.
It is indeed. When we cut to the fight, Alphari's going low. Wunder's running for his life. Jankos forced to zone away as well. Flash for flash. Alphari can't find it. Caps has joined the fray thanks to the teleport. True shot barrage. Not going to tag him, but here comes Jankos. Look for the cocoon. Flashed away by Nukeduck. Caps has got a lot of hit points to work with. The big one's being loaded up and charged. The counter-strike locks him down. Caps blows him up. The fangs are sunk in, and the missiles bring him down.
This is so devastating for Origen. Look how much they expended into that play. They were trying to set up around the Mountain Drake. They have all of the wards over it. They were playing with the mid lane priority. They were constantly cheating in. By going for that TP play to try to make something out of what Alphari was trying to create, they lose so much in return.
And even worse, that's the lane that's supposed to be working for them. Now Perkz going for the 1v1, but it's about to be a 1v3.
For it, Kold and Mithy are coming down. Flash is available to Perkz. Sweeping blade as well. Can he outplay the CC? Insta charm! Very good reaction from Mithy, just waiting for the control, for the contact from the champion.
Yeah, nicely played there to make sure that Perkz had no ability to escape from that play. They're also going to be getting some money off the plates on that bottom lane turret. Just everything they need right now, because right now the game was starting to spiral out of their control.
This can be really scary, however. Caps has a completed Trinity Force. He's sitting 3, 0, and 1 onto this Corki. Yeah, I think Origen definitely need to respect G2 poking their heads in here.
Okay, Mithy should be shut down here. Oh, good flash to get away and actually just sidestep the final mission. That's such a good cocoon. Alphari gets shut down before he can engage. True shot barrage comes up. The dragon is secured, but another missile to the face. Now here comes the charge! Nukeduck's going to be able to evade. Mikyx's going to use the speed up for now. Caps will look to steal away the blue buff.
Now they did get, or Origen did get the dragon, however G2 will now take the blue buff. They have priority over the mid lane. They can now rotate in, and I think overall Origen are actually going to lose out a lot more in the extended measure of this play.
Yeah, because right now G2 continue to move inside of the jungle and just zone Nukeduck away from the tower.
Wow, Pobel to chime in. Corki Azir, Corki Azir, Corki Azir. It's Corki that is winning this matchup right now. Just to quickly put some things into perspective, in the previous game, when Jizuke played the Corki against Humanoid's Azir, he ended 15 minutes with a +8 CSD. We're not even at 15 minutes yet, and Caps, maybe the best player in the West, is sitting with a +12 CS and a 5-0-2 score.
I'm just going to say, counterpoint.
Yes.
Nukeduck was camped.
Okay,
just
fair.
counterpoint.
Very fair. I would prefer to leave the context out so my stat is more true. But
Your stat looks impressive.
That's why I get protected by my analysts. Thank you, Frosco. Skarl is going to get popped as Wunder's under pressure. Nukeduck puts down the Emperor's Divide, and here comes the engage from Perkz. It's yet another kill. The 11th in 15 minutes. Gragas barrel is just about available, and Body Slam could get him over the wall. Do G2 fancy any further chases? And the answer's no.
Nope. Origen keep trying to match the pace of G2, though, but G2 are better at their own game. Caps is split pushing down that bottom lane, picking up the turret, while the rest of the team is willing to get down and dirty and continue to win these fights.
Oh, I wondered if Perkz was going to follow that with that breath of his, but he didn't. He's still sitting on the static shiv, by the way, and a whole boatload of cash, 1,500 in his coffin.
Because there's no reason to try to overextend for a play like that. You have Caps, who is just hard pushing in the bot lane, and as long as Perkz and Mithy actually just stay alive here, them being around dissuades Origen from committing to the Rift Herald, and they allow Jankos to then get back into position, so G2 can now start exerting some of their force around this Herald.
What are your guys' opinions of, like, reviewing Origen's performances this weekend? As I've mentioned already, for me against G2 and Fnatic, this is a taste of what could happen in playoffs, and for me, these are important games. Do you share that sentiment, knowing that, you know, OG was 6-6 at this point, lost Split, and still made finals?
I mean, the concern for Origen fans that this team, after Spring's, okay, Perkz is just trying to kill Patrik in a 1v2 underneath a tower. That's not okay, and that's probably concerning for Origen fans.
Yeah, absolutely the case. Frosk seems to be dying and falling on top of the monitor. What's your take on the situation?
You know, like, Patrik, who expects that? Caps just rocks up with his package. He's got the wards around him. He's like, I can do this. This is totally fine. He could have killed Patrik there.
Yeah, he could have. That was definitely the, no, this is Patrik, as he's being just picked away from. I mean, it's definitely the case, right? But I mean, 5,000 gold lead, 11 kills to 3, 2 towers to 0. Like, this is just what you expect from G2 OG. It feels inevitable.
You have to update your gold stat because it's about to get worse.
Haven't answered the question, Frosco. Do you put a lot of importance on this weekend's games?
I mean, I guess I would have to take the team line and say no, that it's a best of one, that ultimately Origen's line consistently has been, we will be ready in time for playoffs. Now, do I think that that's a bit of a cop-out answer?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that if you're the best team, like G2 have proven themselves, you can win in the best of one. You don't need to wait to the best of 5 to turn it on. That said, Origen are also across from G2, and G2 does this to every team they face.
That is also true. You have to reevaluate the equation. The Rift Herald, by the way, has now been summoned up in this top lane. It will get a boop onto the tower. I wonder if one day G2 will try to get the Dancing Rift Herald. It hasn't happened many times in the past. It just seems like the kind of thing that team would want to play
Surely
for.
they've done it before.
I don't think on broadcast anyway. To my knowledge. I think to my knowledge, Fnatic are the only ones that have.
Did they do it to TL?
Well, I have to double check. I mean, I'd have to double check that. I don't recall off the top of my head.
Rift Herald wasn't the only one dancing then.
Well, exactly the case. But I mean, look at the items. Rapid Fire Cannon, Trinity Force, 502 for Caps and 170 CS. BF Sword as well as Ruby Crystal picked up for Perkz in the bottom lane. He's got the static shiv. And while Patrik is farming up his second items, Alphari's going to fancy another shot here, but I don't think he's been able to catch Wunder.
Yeah, I don't think so. But I just want to compare the itemization of our two mid laners in this game. On one hand, you have Azir, you know, doing pretty well. You got your Lost Chapter, you got a little Stinger. So that's 2 completed items, right? Right?
No, that's thrift shopping,
you don't think so? Okay,
that's,
yeah. That's because Caps right now has a full Trinity Force and Rapid Fire. That's absolutely disgusting, the difference between those two.
He's been farming champions as well as he's farming minions.
Look at the gold, that's 4K almost.
Guys, I hate to interrupt you, but they're looking at a dive. Now, Nukeduck does see this, and Mithy is kiting around behind because he's trying to look delicious. He's like, I'm fried chicken. Dive me, I dare you.
Yeah, but what is the response? I mean, Mithy is waiting in the wings. While that's happening, by the way, dive up top. So it is a skirmish on multiple fronts. Wunder's going to be able to survive for a few seconds longer. Down in the bottom lane, the fight continues. Skarl has been procced. Teleport coming in. Wunder's going to try to get over the wall. Pocket pistol sends him over the wall. Unmounted. Kled manages to escape. Caps is now in trouble. No, he's not. We flick over to the fight, and Caps gets a double kill.
Absolutely unreal right there. The late TP to enter into the fight. Wunder somehow makes that alive, and then just one auto attack is the only difference between Caps living and dying.
Yeah, huge credit to Wunder, the fact that he's able to get over the wall, but Mithy is desperate. Can he get something?
Let's take a look. Final breath being held on to. Mikyx stays alive a few seconds longer. By the way, Jankos was able to pick up the dragon, and the second kill that Origen have secured is the fadeaway onto Mikyx. and it just doesn't feel like it really matters. This replay brought to you by Alienway.
Yeah, we'll see this one more time because OG, they see 4 people bot lane. It's a 2v1 situation up here, so of course they try to get this kill on towards Wunder, but he delays so much time flashing over the wall right here, and then using the Q from his range swarm to pop over the wall the same time Alphari gets in here. It's just beautiful stuff from him to stay alive for Caps to come in and clean up.
I can only think of, there's a song, I don't know if anyone knows it, the Lemon Tree. It's like, I wonder,
This is another old
Is that like
It is,
60s or 70s?
But I'm going to modify the lyrics just for a second, and please indulge me, right? But it's like, I wonder how, I wonder why they tried to kill me under the top lane tower, and Claps teleported in to make them cry. I bailed out of singing because it's awful, and I didn't want to get clipped out.
I think you
that was the worst song
It was
ever.
so bad. What I will do is I'll actually try and make it for Twitter for later, but not in-game. It's 20 minutes in, guys. It's 8,000 gold up. And the morale in the OG camp has to be shattered. But I'm just continually impressed by how G2 are moving around the map. They're still taking towers, they're still taking dragons, and they're still just killing Origen in every opportunity. And Patrik, they didn't dive him last time, but they did this time.
Yeah, the long-range cast there, then procs the Yasuo ultimate, so they're able to pick him off there. It felt like what Origen were trying to do is set up a potential pick when G2 were walking into the area to place down deep vision. Unfortunately, G2 expertly moved in all together, so there was never going to be an opportunity to get an unfair, advantageous fight for Origen.
Oh my word, that damage. Mithy and Caps almost kill Nukeduck before he can do anything. The first tower that Origen secures down in the bottom lane is Alphari with his Trinity Force. We're now 21.5 minutes. Baron is secured, and man, you just keep looking forward and you just keep thinking, where does G2 stop? Because they haven't really shown anything 9-14 wise. The Yasuo Gragas we've known has been a thing for a while, and while Kled is new-ish, right? It's also something that you anticipate and expect Wunder to have in his wheelhouse. And
it's also the fact that this has been a very clean game. I feel like a lot of that really started out with Jankos, so huge credit to him getting that early game rolling. In terms of what Origen were trying to hope to do is stall out this potential Baron, allow Alphari to continue to play these side lanes, get more confident in them, but G2 puts you on a clock and they never show up late.
Yeah, I do like to see how G2 try to close out these games because it's not every day you get a 21-minute Baron, but when you do, your name is probably G2.
Yeah.
And they're just grouping up 5 people in the mid lane, right? Wunder went down bottom lane, even though there was a way for him to pick up. The initial play was, can we move 5 mid? Can we get a pick and just break the base?
And one of the nice things about Gragas as a champion is it feels like in a Corki Azir meta where you're just constantly shoving farm into them and you just boringly watch them clear it. Gragas threatens teams under towers because he can use the ultimate to scoop them off of it.
Yeah, and look, even with 2 towers in the mid lane, they still stay mid lane. Alphari's pushing bot lane, but it's so slow, G2 can just walk up and smack this tower.
And also add on to the fact that you've got an Elise in the jungle and Gragas plus Elise.
Bye-bye.
The threat is immense. Then when you want to get to this point where you want to force an objective, Kled's ultimate breaks open the base. Alphari is faffing about with minions, and it doesn't matter. Nukeduck goes down, and G2, they're looking for the win.
Yeah, this might just be game over right now. They still have cooldowns. Patrik gets exploded, and they're on the next tower.
Mithy and Perkz, if they wanted to, could tower dive the fountain. G2 have a penchant for diving the fountain for kills. 15 in 23. Explosive cask has been used. Nobody was knocked up though. There goes Mithy in for the chase. I'm waiting to see if Perkz gets the final breath. There's the re-engage. The stun instantaneously. Perkz gets yet another. Kold and Alphari are running for their lives. Perkz finally uses the ultimate. The Nexus has been killed by the Winions as all of a sudden Nukeduck has respawned from his earlier death. There is a teleport available here for Wunder to come back into the fray as he's doing. Titanic Hydra. Black Cleaver has now been picked up. We're only 23 minutes into the game. The Nexus has still not been taken down yet. Finally is the focus. There go G2 looking for kills under the fountain. Maybe the bear trap on a rope was to get people out of the fountain. The Nexus goes down and G2 stand victorious. It feels inevitable that you will lose to G2 unless you learn to match G2 like Fnatic did in week 3.
Look, we were promised a rematch of the spring finals, and that's exactly what we got.
Oh, that might be the most BM thing I've heard today.
I mean, there was a lot, you want to talk about BM, the fact that G2 just let the minions kill the Nexus, that they were just hunting for kills, TP'd back in. Like, Perkz was standing in front of the Nexus, he could have hit it. That's mental warfare.
It is, but it's something they do all the time. I actually have to tailor my win moments when casting G2 games in anticipation of the fountain dives, and it does make me very happy to see both Vicky and Perkz giving Mithy a hug there, especially after the beating that Mithy and Patrik just received. Like 6-2-3 on that Yasuo, 7-0-7 on Caps' Corki, a 24-minute victory. It's beautiful.
The challenging thing is deciding who actually gets player of the game, since we can only select 3 people and give it to one. I thought that Mithy had an incredible game onto the Gragas. Obviously, Perkz in tandem with him, the bot lane for G2 is just unreal. Jankos setting up a lot of those early game plays and aggression. Obviously, Caps on Corki running around everywhere.
Well, just an update, by the way, Mickey will be joining us on the post-game lobby once we wrap up the day and the winner's interview. And I just have to step back and I keep looking forward. You know, for G2, it's almost a certainty they'll be in finals. That's how it feels right now. But I'm going to look beyond that and look at Worlds in Europe, and I look at the other leagues and teams, and I wonder to myself, where will we find the challenge? Obviously, Fengbu Buffalo have it in there. We've seen that time and time again. And I know it does sound like a joke, right? But legitimately, G2 just suck against PvP. But when we look at other teams, like, how on earth do we go to the World Championships, and where do we find a contest for this level of performance?
I mean, you're looking at teams like TOP and FPX from China. Of course, Invictus Gaming's always going to be on everyone's lips. You're looking at Danwon and Sandbox from the LCK. They just faced earlier this morning, and it was an explosive back and forth game that kind of measure a lot of this tempo and this aggression that you're seeing from G2. Like against Origen, it felt a bit like a stylistic mismatch.
Yeah.
But
and does this G2 look even better than Spring?
I mean, they look just as good, honestly. It's so hard to say because like sometimes they win their games in 19 minutes, sometimes they take 24. You know, they go for the late game really in a lot of these. But ultimately, this team just plays so fast, they play so well that it's really hard to judge because all they wait for is just one mistake from the enemy team, and that's when they pop the trigger. So sometimes teams wait a little bit longer to make those mistakes. Sometimes they don't, and that determines how quickly this team wins.
Unbelievable. By the way, your suggestions for Kia player of the game are Jankos, Caps, and Perkz. Yes, we're aligned this time around.
Again, everyone deserves a shout out because Wunder and Mickey are on the board. Mickey, God tier Gragas performance. Wunder, some fancy footwork onto the Kled there. I know that you weren't having the greatest time with Alphari, but that was a cool shift over the wall.
But I've got a question with that actually, because when I look at the game, you mentioned it very clearly. I was trying to do the CSD, fudging the numbers, that Corki this game better than Corki last game, but obviously multiple gangs, made a lot of attention. But in terms of the only player that I really felt matched his opponent, I thought Alphari did a fairly good job into Wunder. Is that fair?
But I mean, so it's a weird game for Alphari because yes, early on he played the matchup super well. You know, he took a lot of very good trades, but then the second he makes that flash misplay underneath the tower, the lane just falls apart. No longer is he able to step up and play as aggressively.
Yeah,
that's around the same time his team starts losing as well. So his early laning phase, yes, was good. Then there was a critical mistake, and we never really got to see him in the game again.
Yeah, unfortunately, we didn't get to see much of Origen for the rest of it, in fact. So congratulations to G2 for the win. We're going to head on stage where Laure is standing by with claps.
Thank you very much, guys. And thank you, Claps, for joining me. Do you guys have to dive in the fountain when you guys smash them already?
So we always want to get like the last kills. Obviously, we were trying to like see if we could make like Luca get another death. Unfortunately, he had stopwatch and he ended up surviving, but I wouldn't mind if he tanked a little death there.
All right, well, at the beginning of the game, I noticed a lot of happy faces on your side, not so much on Origen's. And knowing that they're on a 7-game losing streak against you, do you think it impacts the game, knowing that?
I mean, it could be. It doesn't really impact our game, but maybe it impacts theirs. I think the reason we just go in happy is like that's what we do every game. Yeah. Especially this game, we had a lot of fun. And I mean, I was hoping to get the Tristana, but instead I ended up with a Corki Azir matchup. So, yeah.
That's a spoiler here, Tristana.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a Tristana one trick now. So.
Oh, well, tell me about it. Why does it work in the mid lane? And can we expect to see you on Tristana soon?
I mean, so basically, you just get level 2, and then you jump on any mid, and you one-shot him with like an E and Ignite. And then it basically works every game. Unfortunately, I was forced into the Corki Azir matchup today, and I couldn't pull it out.
All right, well, I'll see. I hope we can see this pick soon in your hands now. Since you guys are so dominant, what are your personal goals for the Summer Split? And please don't say winning the split, because that's a given.
I mean, I think we're just aiming to win every game. I mean, obviously, going to the split, we wanted to get the 18-0. But unfortunately, it didn't really go our way. But now we're just trying to secure top 2 and then play as good as we can in playoffs, and also play in a way where we can be confident going into Worlds.
A bit more about you and I, because I had to look for some stats. I mean, you guys are winning so much, I'm running out of topics when I have to interview you guys. So looking at your stats, I noticed that you're the mid laner in the LEC with the lowest damage percentage. And knowing you, I think it's interesting. So do you have an explanation for this?
I mean, I think damage sense is like, depends on my team's damage as well, and I think all my teammates do a lot of damage. I also think a big reason is probably that, again, every other mid laner is playing a lot of Corki Azir. I know this game with Corki I had like the most damage by far. But the other weeks I was playing a lot of, I mean, basically assassins and stuff like this. So if you compare that to like the likes of Azir, you don't really get the same damage per minute.
I agree on that. Thank you for the explanation. Now, last question for you. There's something in Europe about wanting to find the next big mid laner. So I want to know, who's the next baby caps?
I mean, there's a lot of rookies looking really strong. I think we have like 5 rookies in LEC right now. I mean, if you don't count last split. I think probably Humanoid is looking the best. But leaders also look really good today, so it's definitely interesting. There's a lot of really strong rookies, and let's see who shows up in playoffs.
We'll see about that in the future. Now, I was just told that you were player of the game. Nothing surprising about this, I hope.
I mean, it was a quite crazy game. We were kind of trading a lot mid lane, and then we were like trying to dive him as well and stuff like this, and we were just fighting all over the place. So it was a fun game. Yeah.
Well, congrats on this one. Hoping to see more crazy game from you guys, and I'll see you tomorrow. Now, to wrap up the day, let's send it over to PGL. Take it away, guys.
Actually, it's unbelievable.